What is my name? My name is Anne.
What is your abortion story?
My abortion story is I was 19, I had a boyfriend, and got pregnant. He ultimately became my husband, and we went through a lot in order to facilitate this abortion, but I was too young to recognize the fact that I think that might have been a sign. And this was 1970. I was 19 and he was 23, and we had to go to New York City, and it's Women's Health Service or something, 76 in Lexington, and I don't know why I remember that. And I will say that afterwards, they were so solicitous, and they were kind, and they made it such a positive experience, and I don't remember if they ever used the word tissue, but in retrospect, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. It was a time, remember this is 1970, so we're becoming empowered, whatever. And it's all about our choice and our bodies, and obviously just pre-Roe v. Wade. We were in Michigan, we were in Ann Arbor, University of Michigan, and had to drive to New York for this. And unfortunately, I tried to talk myself into this being a positive experience, because then I wouldn't be burdened with a baby, and we didn't know what we were going to do. Well, then we got married 2 months later. And it would have been very difficult, but it's difficult for everybody. You manage. On the other hand, again, I was 19. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. And hearing these videos now, I just want to say, don't do it, don't do it. Just whatever you have to do, don't do it. Find a home for unwed mothers. Someone has to start one again. You have to have a safe, nurturing place. Have this baby. This baby is wanted. It is needed. It is truly, it is a microscopic bit of God. Don't throw this away. It's just, don't do it. It will haunt you all of your life. 3 years later, my husband died. He was 26 years old. He had one heart attack, and it was his only heart attack. Died in his sleep, never woke up, never knew what hit him. And it took me 10 years to remarry, and married a nice guy, but it didn't work. He wasn't the right guy. And I never had children. So frankly, who's going to change my diapers when I'm old? Anyway, but it's difficult as children can be. I have to say I've related well to the woman that you've talked about on the radio. You've paraphrased her story, and is it a burden or is it a blessing? It's going to depend on how you look at it. Isn't that true with everything? Don't do it. Don't do it. You will never have a day that you won't regret it. You can run from it. You can seal a piece of your psyche off. You can seal a piece of your emotions off. You can seal a piece of your heart off. You can corral them and put them aside and maybe never have to face them for 40 years or 30 years or 20 or whatever. But there will come a day, and there will never be a moment somewhere deep inside you that you don't absolutely rue the day that you ever did this. If nothing else, for selfish reasons, for what it has done to you psychically. But that you made that choice just puts, it is a guilt that you wear. The only good thing that has ever come out of this is it has made me recognize that there are things that I will do and things that I won't do ever. There's no question about it. There's just no question about it. I have a set of values that I just don't step beyond. And this is the impetus to that. This is the seed for that. It's not good enough to exchange it for. I would rather have not done this and floundered around and found my way to some sort of, moral certitude. It's coming from the 70s. That's not what you grew up with or were told. But I so firmly believe, don't do it. This is trust in the process. Trust that this is, and I hate the term meant to be. Trust that there's something in this for you. Trust. Find that trust in your heart. You don't have to believe in a particular God, but you have to know that there's something greater than yourself. Trust.
What do you say to the girl? Perfect. What do you say to the girl who says, "I won't feel guilty about it"?
What would I say to the girl who says, "I won't feel guilty about it"? Might not today. May not tomorrow. You'll feel a sense of liberation. You might be down for a couple of days. I have no idea what modern procedures are like. Maybe you'll be dancing the next night. Maybe you'll be out and sleeping with some new guy. I promise you, I absolutely promise you on my life, I would stake my life on it, that you will regret it. You can seal that off, but when you do, now you're walking without a limb. You're seeing without one of your eyes, which means you lose your depth perception. You're operating without a hand. It's of your choice. Don't do it. There is someone out there who wants this child. This is not such an inconvenience. Look at this as a blessing, if nothing else. Give this child to someone who will love it and raise it, and someday maybe they'll want to find you. Someday maybe they won't. Leave the child alone. Let it have its life. I can't say it enough. This is a piece of God. This is a piece of something greater than you are. This is a piece of something that has never not existed and will never not exist. It's important. Remember that. It's important. You will regret it. You will regret it.
What would you have needed on Lexington, 73rd Street, when you were 19, to have you make a different decision?
What would I have needed at the Women's Health Clinic, whatever it was, in New York City on 72nd and Lexington? I can tell you what I would have needed. I would have needed my boyfriend, soon-to-be husband, to say to me, to look me deeply in the eyes and say, "I don't want you to do this. Don't do this. We'll make it work. We will make it work. I will make sure that I take care of you and our family." And if he had said that, but he couldn't, it wasn't the time to say it. It was the time. I was an independent woman. I was an idiot. I was an idiot. I believe I could have heard that if he had said it. But he just couldn't say it because it wasn't the politically correct, though we didn't use that term at the time, it wasn't the politically correct thing to say.
So a girl who's watching this, who doesn't have that either, what do you say to her?
What I'd say to a girl who doesn't have that, and I've actually given this some thought. What I would say to a girl who doesn't have someone to say that to her, maybe it was a one-night stand, fly-by-night, whatever, or he's gone, they've broken up, whatever. What I would say is, if you can't get it from your parents, find someone who can give you the love. And if you put it out there, and it's not like we don't have social media, you can find someone. You can find someone who will say, I will love you. I don't want anything from you. I will take care of you. I will help you with this. I don't understand why we don't have homes for unwed mothers anymore, nurturing, loving homes for unwed mothers anymore, someplace where you can go and you can have your baby, and when you have your baby, you can grieve over the loss of this. But if you choose this route, you can go back to your life without having a death on your soul. You're going to carry this. I also do believe that, and I know this gets a little esoteric, but you know, if you look at Carl Jung and you look at Neumann, one of his students, and Neumann talks about the shadow. He uses the shadows, the unconscious side of us, and sometimes it has the bad aspects, so on and so forth. Well, there's a lot carried in the collective. If you resolve your piece of your shadow, of the shadow that you carry out of the collective personally, out of your actions and whatnot, that you're also resolving a piece of the collective unconscious shadow. And the reason that I go into that is I look at these babies and this 55 million children since Roe v. Wade, and I think that these were, unfortunately, we often need martyrdom to wake us up. We're seeing that in the Middle East. We saw that in World War II. I mean, we've seen it all over the world. We're still seeing it, and we're seeing it more, but we're becoming more aware. And you have to bless these martyrs every night in your prayers, because that's what they are.
How often do you think about your baby?
A lot. A lot. And I say, I'm sorry. And I have two favorite prayers. I got them from Anne Lamott. I read them, and her two favorite prayers, and they resonated with me, are help me, help me, help me, and thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm sorry that it just didn't work out that I had other children. I'm sorry that I didn't find the right guy, I guess. Maybe I did. Actually, in some ways, I did, and I threw him away. But I was also 36, and I was young, and I was hot, and I was thinking that the grass was greener. But I think that there was also a spillover, because this wasn't something I was willing to talk about. This wasn't something I was willing to acknowledge, that I had a piece of me that was missing. How do I come to you to have a fulfilling relationship? Can you imagine your wife find out in 10 years that she's had something, this secret, it's not like, oh, she bought a pair of shoes and didn't tell you about it, but this deep secret that she's never shared with you. What kind of person would she have to be? So what kind of person did I have to be? Cavalier comes to mind, you know?
How much time? Quick, we get when your husband passed away, did you think of your abortion right away? Or?
I did, and I have to say, embarrassingly so. I mean, I at his funeral, I remember I was 22, but at his funeral, where his parents were and all of his family, his father was a funeral director. And so John shipped the body to New York, and then they dressed him and whatnot. And we buried him in New York, upstate New York, and Amsterdam, probably know where it is. And I wailed like a banshee. Oh my goodness, I look back at it now and it is a little embarrassing. But I wonder if part of it was this secret. His parents never knew. My parents never knew. My sisters don't know. There were a few friends over the years that do know. But since I moved to Southern California, I don't have a friend in Southern California who knows. I haven't talked about this till now. I don't want anybody to know.
Why not?
Because it's not something I'm proud of. And not just, no, wrong words, because it's something I am deeply ashamed of, and I believe that it is my burden to carry. And that is part of the penance. And to sit here now and tell you this story in what I think are intimate details, this is also part of my penance. When I heard on the radio, it's why I called immediately, because it clicked, it resonated with me, and it said, you need to do this. One baby, that's all that matters. I think that there are things that we have to carry. And I don't know, if I ever date again and if I ever find a husband again, I think it's something that he'll have to know. Because you have to.
You're doing amazing. We're almost done. Do you ever think about what a good mom would have been?
Do I ever think about what a good mom I would have been? I do. I think I would have been a horrible mother. Because of the time. Because of the time. It was as we were starting to be brainwashed with, if you're happy, the child is happy. Now, I know that we're still carrying that stuff on to today, which is just ridiculous, but I think that we're starting to see a little change in that. I'm hoping, if you said something, I had a friend who had a baby, she went to a party, and this was 5-6 years afterwards, and she went to a party, or maybe 10, and she was a stay-at-home mom at that time. And someone asked her what she did for a living. And I'm just a mom. I still throw that in her face, lovingly, and we laugh about it. But because how can there be a more valuable job? My bringing in $1 billion a year, or successfully raising a healthy, happy, well-adjusted child who can go out and contribute. I would have been a crappy mom. Now, I'd be a great mom, and I have no energy. I can see why, nature throws us away after a period of time because you don't have the energy to do it. But I think that, there are people like you, and we're waking up. I believe that we're waking up. People like Glenn, we're talking about this stuff. You can't, yeah, you can. You can beat people up, but you can't be a scold. You have to do it with humor. But we're waking up, and I look at my friends who are getting it more and more, friends who have young children, and they're realizing, wow, they were just born yesterday and now they're 4? What am I missing?